My name is Jen. I'm the face behind Chef Girl Nutrition. I'm a registered dietitian and health supportive chef. We are live on the Chef Girl Nutrition Facebook page. I am here every Tuesday at this time, 4:30 Mountain Time, 6:30 Eastern Time, doing a live cooking demo. Either a demo where I'm showing you a specific kind of cooking technique, or we're working through a full recipe, or I'm on here just kind of talking about some sort of hot topic in nutrition and in healthy cooking, right? And helping to kind of clarify some of the information out there and to help simplify what it really means to eat and cook healthy. So for today's demo, I was thinking, I know that tomorrow is St. Patrick's Day, and even though that's not a holiday for me personally, I know that it is for many of you, and it's a pretty festive kind of holiday, right? And we see all different kinds of green foods and green bagels, and something that popped into my head is the classic Shamrock Shake from McDonald's. And so I was just kind of thinking, okay, what can we do, something that would be kind of a fun demo where you'll also really learn something tangible, right? So taking the Shamrock Shake in mind, I decided that we could make a green smoothie. And while I'm using the Shamrock Shake as kind of like inspiration for doing this demo, I don't really want to call it like a healthy Shamrock Shake or a lightened up Shamrock Shake or anything like that. I don't even really like using those kinds of terms in general, because when we're making something that's just nutritious and tastes really great also, why does it need to be, the healthy version of something else? Why can't it just be what it is, right? So, and I also don't love using those kinds of words to describe a dish, because it kind of makes you feel like the real thing is bad for you, right? It kind of makes you feel like you shouldn't be having that. And when we're talking about something like a Shamrock Shake that comes around once a year for St. Patrick's Day, if you want the real Shamrock Shake, I fully believe that you should enjoy the real Shamrock Shake, right? So that's not what, so the idea here is not to just kind of like replicate the Shamrock Shake and make a healthier version of it. We're just using it kind of as inspiration to make our own creamy, delicious green smoothie that also happens to be minty, because we're going to put some mint in it. But it really just kind of stands alone as its own nutritious snack or meal, right? And so that's what we're going to dive into too. We're not just going to make the smoothie itself, but I want to talk to you about smoothies in general as we go through this, because smoothies have gained a lot of popularity, right, as in kind of like the wellness space as being a health food, but smoothies can also become really loaded with excess calories and sugar very quickly if we're not careful about the ingredients that we're putting in. So smoothies can 1000% be a really great part of a healthy, balanced diet. Like I said, either as a meal or as a snack, but we want to take care that we are making it balanced the same way that we would make any meal or snack balanced, right? And when I say make it balanced, I'm really talking about the balance of macronutrients that we have, right? So that's a balance of our carbohydrates, our proteins, and our healthy fats. So a lot of smoothies, and especially the kinds that you'll get at like, a different kind of like juice and smoothie bars and, places like those, a lot of those smoothies are just packed with a lot of carbohydrates, right? They're mostly fruit-based. They might have fruit juice added on top of that, right? And they don't necessarily have any sort of protein or healthy fat in there, so it just becomes this big kind of sugar bomb, right? So it's totally cool to be using fruit to naturally sweeten our smoothies, and that's what we're going to talk about and do here with this green smoothie. But we want to make sure that we're balancing those carbohydrates from the fruit with some protein and fat. So we're going to talk through the different components of the smoothie as we put together this green smoothie, and I'll, identify some different options for you and just give you some tips as we go. And in the process of doing this, I also really want to debunk what a green smoothie, people get a bad impression of a green smoothie as, tasting like grass, right? You think that it's going to taste like the spinach or whatever kind of greens you're putting in there, right? And this smoothie is a great example of how when you add greens to a smoothie, they really don't alter the taste. So they really just boost the nutrient value without doing much to the taste, to the flavor of it. But if you add greens to a smoothie that has berries in it, and especially blueberries, the color will turn a little gray. So it can make it a funny color, but it will still taste delicious. So we're going to talk about that as we go. I'm going to dive into making this smoothie, and like I said, I will just touch on these points as we move through it. So I'm actually just going to use my NutriBullet. This is like one of the original looking NutriBullets. I love using my NutriBullet and this is not any sort of sponsored anything, I just love my NutriBullet because it's perfect for a single serve smoothie. So I just blend everything up in this cup, and then I can drink it in this cup, and so it just saves a lot of, not having to pull out the blender and clean the blender and all that. So I'm using my NutriBullet, but obviously you could use any blender that you have. So our first ingredient for a smoothie is going to be our liquid, right? So there's always going to be some liquid in a smoothie. So I have a few liquid options over here. So I recommend using milk if you want it to be a creamy smoothie, but you can absolutely use water in your smoothie as well. So, it also just kind of depends on, what kind of smoothie, we're talking about kind of like in talking about the Shamrock Shake, right? We're thinking something super creamy, so that's what I'm going for here with this smoothie. But for, any regular day, you could use any milk of your choice or water. So when I say milk of your choice, that means you can use dairy milk or your favorite non-dairy alternative. So I have some unsweetened vanilla almond milk here, regular dairy milk here, and then I have also kefir. So this is, kefir is a fermented, it's like drinkable yogurt almost, but it's a really great source of probiotics, and it also has protein in it. So I love using kefir in smoothies because it's a really great way to get that probiotic boost, and it kind of solves the, I get protein and liquid, so the alternative to that would be doing milk and some Greek yogurt, which I have here. So I'm going to use the kefir for this smoothie. So I'm going to add a cup of the kefir. Actually, I'm going to do like a little less than a cup. And then what I do when I use the kefir in my smoothies is I also add just a bit of water to help kind of thin it out a little bit. So I'm just going to add a little splash of water. So that's my liquid. So far I have my kefir and my water. So if you weren't using the kefir, you could use, our base for a smoothie is always going to be somewhere from a half a cup to a cup. So you can always start with less and then add more. It's always better to start with less and add more to get it to the consistency that you want versus adding too much and then you can't really compensate for that. So start with a half a cup or 3/4 of a cup with your smoothies, and then if you feel you need more to get it to the texture that you want, right? Some people like smoothies a bit thicker, some people like them really thin, so that's really to your preference, but usually somewhere around 3/4 of a cup as an average there is good. So for the liquid base, we have half to a cup of liquid of your choice. So you could use regular milk or non-dairy milk. I'm not going to add any Greek yogurt to this one because I have the kefir in here, but if you want to add, talking about our next component, when we're talking about wanting to add some protein to our smoothie, something like Greek yogurt is a really great way to add some protein. So if you want to add Greek yogurt, you could add a half a cup of plain, unsweetened Greek yogurt. Okay, and Greek yogurt, of course, well, I'm saying Greek yogurt and not just regular yogurt because Greek yogurt is much higher in protein than a regular yogurt. And of course, there are non-dairy alternatives to Greek yogurt. So if you have, a favorite non-dairy yogurt, you could definitely use that in your smoothie as well. And I recommend trying to, choose one that is a little bit higher in protein content, especially if that's what you're using it for. So our second ingredient going into our smoothie is our fruit. Okay, and so I'm just kind of giving you like a smoothie formula, right? So we start with our liquid, then we're adding our fruit. So for this green smoothie, the only fruit that I'm adding is a banana, and I'm adding a frozen banana. So I freeze the bananas by peeling them, and then I cut them in, I just break them in half and put them in a sealed baggie and put them in the freezer. Okay, so I'm just adding those in here. So that's just one banana that was split in half. So you want to make sure when you're freezing a banana to peel it before you freeze it, because otherwise the peel will freeze onto the banana and it's very hard to get it off. So make sure you peel it first, put it in a sealed baggie, and put them in the freezer. So when you start to get bananas that, are starting to get super ripe, like these are on their way, right? Once they're really ripe, instead of throwing them away, a really good way to save them is to toss them in the freezer and then use them in your smoothies. Not just because it's a great way to not waste bananas, but also because frozen bananas add a ton of natural creaminess to a smoothie, more so than an unfrozen banana. So once it's frozen, it adds this really creamy kind of quality to it. Also, by freezing the bananas once they're more ripe, they're sweeter, right? The riper they get, the sweeter they are. So if it's a riper frozen banana, right, it's going to add a ton of natural sweetness. So this frozen banana is going to be our only source of sweetness in this smoothie. We're not adding any sugar to it, so we're just getting the natural sugar from the banana. So it's a really great idea to freeze bananas. You can also find bananas frozen already in the frozen fruit aisle in the grocery store. You can find sliced frozen banana, so that's always a good alternative also. So in general, speaking of our formula for our smoothies, you want to add about a cup to a cup and a half of fruit. So if you're using a banana, then you could add, another half a cup of berries or frozen mango or pineapple. Frozen cherries are really good. So there's lots of different kinds of frozen fruits that you can add. You don't have to add all frozen fruit, but adding frozen fruit instead of unfrozen fruit it helps to chill your smoothie, right? It helps to make it cold without adding ice. And the reason we like that is because when you add ice cubes to your smoothie as the way to chill it, it dilutes the flavor a bit because you're really just adding more water to it, right? So it dilutes the flavor. So using frozen fruit is a way to get your smoothie cold without having to add ice, and you'll have a much stronger flavor that way. So like I said, for this smoothie, we're just doing the banana, but typically if I was making just like a breakfast smoothie, I usually would also add a half a cup of berries. That's usually my go-to, is a banana and half a cup of berries. But like I said, there are tons of different kinds of fruits that you can use, and pretty much any fruit works well in a smoothie. Okay, so after our fruit, we are going to add some protein, right? So I mentioned that with the Greek yogurt, that's a really great source of protein, adding a half a cup of Greek yogurt. Some other ways to add protein to a smoothie would be using a scoop of protein powder. Adding also your milk, right? So if you're using dairy milk, there's of course protein in dairy milk, right? And especially if you're using a full cup of milk, like this dairy milk here has 10 grams of protein, and that's pretty standard. It's usually like 8 to 12 grams of protein for a cup of dairy milk. If you're using non-dairy milk, You can look for ones that are higher protein. So higher protein non-dairy milks are going to be ones that are made from pea protein. So pea protein based milks will be high in protein, and also soy milk is going to be higher in protein. So those are good options for higher protein non-dairy milks. So that's of course one way that you're getting protein. Also, like I said, the kefir has protein if you're using that. But so a half a cup of Greek yogurt is great. Half to 1 scoop of your favorite protein powder is great, especially if you're having a smoothie as like a post-workout kind of thing and you need, you know, a heftier dose of protein. Then adding some protein powder in will be a really great addition to that, right? Because a full scoop of protein powder is going to have much more protein than a half a cup of Greek yogurt. So it also, you know, depends on how much protein you need, right? And that goes into thinking, am I having this smoothie as a meal, right? Where I'm really trying to get a good dose of protein in, or am I having this as a snack and I don't need, you know, quite as much, right? So thinking about that, thinking about how hungry you are, what you need out of this smoothie. So how much protein do you actually want to add? Another good source of protein for a smoothie is tofu. So using silken tofu, right? So the really soft tofu blends really nicely up into a smoothie and is of course a great source of plant-based protein, right? And the tofu, you know, if you've had tofu before, plain tofu doesn't really taste like much. So it really doesn't, you know, impact the flavor of your smoothie very much. It just adds a really great dose of protein. And then the other way to get some protein, which goes into our next component of our smoothie formula, is adding some healthy fat, right? So we have our carbs, we have our protein, we have our liquid, right? And so we need to add some healthy fat to balance out our smoothie. So certain sources of healthy fats are also going to have some protein. So nuts and seeds are going to be, you know, not as high, they're not super high in protein, but you will get some protein from them. So you could add any nuts or seeds, right? So I have this, this is just a variety of some nuts and pumpkin seeds in here. Also adding, and you could just add like a couple tablespoons of nuts or seeds. You could add 1 to 2 tablespoons of a nut or seed butter, right? So this is just a natural, unsweetened peanut butter. Or you could add seeds like flax or chia seeds or hemp seeds. So these are a really great addition because it's a really easy way to get an extra dose of omega-3s, right? And I've talked about omega-3 fats before and how important they are, and that most of us are not getting enough of them. So adding just a tablespoon of ground flaxseed or chia seeds or hemp seeds to your smoothie is a really simple way to add a nice dose of some omega-3 fats. So I love to add these. I usually always add a tablespoon of one of these to my smoothie. So that's how we get some healthy fat. Another way is with avocado, and that's what I'm going to add into this smoothie because we're keeping it green and making it really creamy. So avocado, of course, is a great source of healthy fat. It's also a fruit, right? So it adds a little extra fruit in here, right? So we get extra fiber from the avocado, tons of nutrients, and the avocado itself, compared to these healthy fats, although the nut butter will make it pretty creamy, avocado is going to add extra creaminess to a smoothie. So that's why I'm going to use it for this one. So I'm going to use just a quarter of it. So this is a half, and then I'm just going to use a quarter of the avocado. And plop that right in with everything else. I'm going to put this in front so you can see. Okay. So right now, as is, I have the right balance of my protein, my carbohydrates, and my healthy fat, right? So I have it all in here. So from there, all we're gonna do now is add some extra flavor. So with a smoothie, it's really up to you if you wanna add some extra spices in there, right? If you wanna add some cinnamon, if you wanna add ginger, citrus, right? Lemons, oranges, limes, anything like that is delicious. You can add cocoa powder to a smoothie and make it chocolatey. You can add different kinds of extracts, right? So I'm gonna add a teaspoon of vanilla extract into this one. So you could add, almond extract, whatever kind you like. You can really go, and it's a good way to kind of have like your standard, you could have like your standard kind of smoothie recipe that you use, and then you can always switch it up by adding different, added flavors, right? Adding different spices, or maybe if you usually use lemon juice, you change it up and use lime juice, and little things like that change the flavor, right? So I added a teaspoon of vanilla, and I'm adding the juice of half of a lime. Okay. And then I'm adding in, for our minty flavor, just about a quarter cup of fresh mint leaves. So to get a really strong minty flavor, if you really wanted this to kind of mimic the mintiness of a Shamrock Shake, you could use mint extract. You use very little of it because that extract is very strong. But to me, the extract has a more artificial flavor, and I just love the fresh mint flavor. So I'm using fresh mint leaves, plus there's added health benefits in the fresh mint leaves, right? They're a plant, they're a green, so they come with, the mint leaves come with their own, source of nutrients and antioxidants and things like that. So I love to use fresh mint leaves for something like this. And so once we've got all of our basic ingredients in here, I've added my flavors, the next thing you can do is boost up the nutrients even more, right? So the way that we're doing that for our green smoothie, of course, is we're adding greens. So I have 2 cups of baby spinach. When it comes to adding greens to a smoothie, you could use any leafy green that you prefer. I love to use baby spinach. It's what I usually use because it's so delicate and really has a mild flavor, right, compared to something like arugula that has a much stronger, like peppery kind of flavor. But so I love using baby spinach. I find it just like kind of melts really easily into the smoothie. But you could really use any leafy green. You could use kale, collard greens, Swiss chard. You could use romaine lettuce. You could even use the green tops of vegetables like carrot greens or beet greens or turnip greens. You could use any greens that you get your hands on. And you can definitely use frozen greens also. So that's a good way to add more frozen, add more chill to your smoothie. You could use frozen chopped greens instead of fresh greens too. And I mean, really, I measured this out as 2 cups, but just, a couple big handfuls right into your smoothie. And you can really add greens to any smoothie. So like I said at the beginning of this, the greens really don't add flavor. It doesn't suddenly make it taste all grassy, right? If you're thinking of that flavor, that grassy flavor is what you get from a green juice, right? A juice that is, just greens and celery and, whatever else, and has nothing sweet in it, right? So we have a banana in here, we have the vanilla extract in here, so this is going to be a sweet smoothie. It's not going to be, grassy tasting. So if you haven't tried greens in your smoothies before, I really do encourage you to give it a try, because I think it will change your mind. And it's just such an easy way to, just like I said, adding the flax or chia or hemp seeds is such a great way to get an extra dose of omega-3s in your diet. Adding greens to a smoothie is such a great way to just get some more greens in. It's like having, 2 cups of greens is a full serving of greens. So especially if you're not much of, a salad person, this is just a really great way to add an extra dose of those in. So I'm going to actually add, where's my spoon? Oh, I threw it in here. In my NutriBullet, it can, get a little tight squeeze in here. So I'm just using a spoon to push everything down. Okay. So that's all that's going in our minty green Shamrock smoothie. So I'm gonna blend it up here. Part of the noise for a minute. Oh, it would help if I plugged it in. Hold, please. Okay. All right. So just like that, it's done. And we have this really pretty bright green color. And it's hard for me to show you. You know what, maybe I'll pour it. I'll pour it into a cup. So I can show you that it really is nice and super creamy. Okay, so you can hopefully see as I'm pouring it, it's really nice and creamy. Okay, so that's our nice St. Patrick's Day green smoothie, naturally sweetened, right? So all we used for sweetener in this was our frozen banana. We added the vanilla extract, so that does help add like a little, you know, the vanilla extract itself is not sweet, right? But it adds that kind of like sweet flavor because it's vanilla and it, you know, feels desserty. And we have a beautiful balance of our protein, our healthy fats, and our carbohydrate, right? So this is like a balanced, you know, this could work as a breakfast, have a festive St. Patty's Day smoothie tomorrow for breakfast. You know, certainly if you wanted it just as a snack, you could you know, do it in 2 servings. But that's it. So it's a, you know, it's a nutritious and delicious green smoothie. I noticed here that I didn't mention, I have 2 dates sitting here. So dates are also a really great way to add some extra sweetness. So, you know, if you do find that a smoothie is not sweet enough for you, maybe your fruit wasn't ripe enough, right? If fruit's not really ripe, it's not going to be very sweet. So if you do feel like you need a little bit extra sweetness in a smoothie, try adding either 1 to 2 dates, pit them, of course, and then put them in your smoothie. So 1 to 2 dates can help, or try adding 1 teaspoon of maple syrup or honey, and 1 teaspoon at a time. Again, better to start little than to do too much and have it be too sweet. But those are all good ways to add some extra sweetness if you feel like you need it. So that's it. I'll run through our smoothie formula one more time, right? So we start with our liquid 1/2 to 1 cup of milk of your choice or water if that's what you prefer. Then we add our fruit. So we want about 1 to 1.5 cups of fruit. Might be a banana plus 1/2 cup of berries or mango or pineapple or something like that. If you are using fruit, try to use frozen, right? So that you get that creaminess from something like a frozen banana, plus you get the chill in your smoothie without adding ice too, that dilutes the flavor. Then we want to add some sort of protein, right, which can come from something like our Greek yogurt, tofu, protein powder. And then we need to add some healthy fats, so nuts, seeds, nut butter, avocado, and then whatever sorts of flavors you love, adding on the spices, ginger, citrus, things like that, and then adding some extra nutrients with greens. And also, greens are not the only veggie that work well in a smoothie. Things like carrots work really well. Roasted beets work really well in a smoothie. Frozen cauliflower actually is really great in a smoothie. So you can really get creative, right? That's a beautiful thing about smoothies, is that they're really just a vessel for lots of different ingredients. And it's a really great way, just in general, if you're someone who kind of struggles to get enough fruits and veggies in every day, a smoothie can definitely help you get more fruits and veggies in. We just want to make sure, like I said, that it's, if you're having it as a meal or a snack, you want to make sure that it is balanced and not just going to be like a total sugar bomb that has you crashing an hour later, right? So you want it to actually be something that helps sustain you. So that's kind of our formula for a smoothie. I'm going to go enjoy my green smoothie a day early for St. Patrick's Day. and I hope that you will give it a try too.